Welcome to Scoop World Order. We are live. It is Thursday night. There's a lot of great events going on right now in the sporting world. Some big time action for Ohio State on the recruiting circuit. These coaches are out tirelessly working the recruiting trails. It is a tough month for these coaches because, man, they leave on Sunday and they get home on Friday night. So they're on the grind. But we got a little update on our boy Aaron Scott as we fist fight him with the Michigan Wolverines for his services. And some other good stuff coming. A lot of good stuff coming. NIL is on the upswing right now for Ohio State, so really excited about that. We're just crushing the transfer portal, so a lot of great news, and gonna watch some film. So that being said, as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. I was at a great event tonight. Was stopped by someone who said he really enjoyed the podcast. That means the world to me. It was a great charity event. Raised a lot of money. It was a blast. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We always can't take you guys for granted ever. We're just so thankful for you guys. If you enjoy this content, hit that like button, click subscribe, click that little alert button so you guys can get in here anytime that we are going live and you guys can get in here. And as always, shout out where you are from. People love that. I love seeing Xenia, Ironton. You know, I see people from down south, down on the river, Southern Ohio, God's country. So I love down there, the home of Tudor's Biscuits World. So again, keep it coming. I love seeing where you guys are from: Cleveland, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and all over the world. I mean, we've gotten Japan, we've gotten India, Indonesia, Europe. So again, appreciate you guys. Love reading where you guys are from. I read every comment and I appreciate you. So with that being said, gonna bring in my good friend, Mr. Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing good, man. Busy sports day. It seems like the off season gets shorter, sports gets more intense. There seems like there's a great game on every night, and the only night of the year that I hate is I think it's the day after the baseball All-Star break or something like that, where there's like nothing on television. That's like the saddest day of the year. But this is not the saddest day of the year. This is a busy day, and I got some Ohio State stuff going. So very, very excited.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the saddest days for me are after the national championship, after the Super Bowl, because there's no football left. And then, you know, when hockey and basketball end, because there's fantastic competition right now in the NHL and the NBA. And I just like watching great athletes compete. So those are fun to watch. But, you know, when you got that void where it's just baseball, those are hard times. So that's recruiting camp time, and then we're into training camp time. So football will be here very soon. And for a lot of these young Buckeyes, like my man DeJuan Jones, DeJuan is up in Cleveland. He got number 74. I was proud of him. I said represent, shot him a text. Those guys start rookie minicamp tomorrow, so there's going to be a lot of football information coming in as these rookies are now officially NFL players, and they are, you know, rookie minicamp is practice. It's not just like some goof off session. So these boys are about to get torn up. I hope they've been running and working out. Appreciate you guys. We got some Aaron Scott news. Aaron Scott is a guy. It's a fist fight between Ohio State and Michigan right now. Ohio State's NIL game is really starting to crank up. It's really starting to hit its stride. Nevada, you got a little nugget about Aaron Scott being reached out to by someone special. Talk a little bit about that and how our NIL game is starting to sharpen up.
Well, I think, as you said, it took Ohio State a little while to kind of get NIL figured out. When we had first heard about NIL, we were talking about profound changes that it was going to have on the game. And, frankly, I don't like NIL. I don't think people like talking about NIL. I don't think people like hearing about NIL. It's kind of one of those, unappetizing, topics, but it's a reality of football in 2023. And I think Ohio State's, as you said, they're really starting, to figure it out. And I think, in a situation like this, where it's a kid that's not all about NIL, but you need sufficient NIL to get there, I think Ohio State's going to get there. And I really like where Ohio State's sitting with that. I don't know where everybody else is saying in terms of the Ohio State, Michigan, some other third-party school. I'm not calling him to Ohio State, and it's not an equal sign because he hasn't committed to Ohio State. But I really believe he's going to end up a Buckeye, and I think the NIL efforts are going to be a strong portion of that. I think Ohio State's finally kind of figured it out, kind of marshaling all of their resources that they can, and in this case, I think that's going to be determinative and make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, last year, if you look at our portal activity, even, the first 3 months, it was a little bit lackluster. But since then, wow, we've turned it up. We've gotten Davidson Igbinosin, Jihad Carter. We got Simmons at tackle. I mean, we've been really pouring it on, and it's been impressive. Like again, I think that the transfer portal is a unique opportunity to plug some holes in your roster. Maybe upgrade the bottom of your respective rooms. You know, there's some kids that maybe might not have panned out the way you envisioned it, and you can go out and get a kid that maybe was under recruited. You know, like our guy from San Diego State who is actually going to be a projected starter at right tackle potentially. You know, in Jason Simmons. So I think that we're gonna have a very interesting summer. Again, I think that, anytime a kid has a chance to go to either Ohio State or Michigan, if it's kind of equal, I always ask the kid, I'm like, look, do you want to live in Michigan when you're done, or do you want to live in Ohio? And if the kid wants to live in Ohio, then it's like, go to Ohio State. If you want to live in Michigan, go to Michigan. Because when you're done, you're going to be a Buckeye. You're going to be, whatever you're doing after you're done. I always tell guys 10 years in the NFL, which, 1% of the guys make it to 10 years in the NFL or 2%, whatever it is. So, once you're done though, I mean, and you want to start a business, you want to work for a company, you want to do nonprofit work, whatever you want to do, it helps to be a Buckeye, a former Buckeye. People love that. I always talk about the Bourne brothers. The Bourne brothers have been as prolific as anybody in terms of using their Ohio State ties, and they've built a fantastic company, fantastic business. They recently sold a part of it for a boatload of money. And, none of those guys really played in the NFL. The old man was a Michigan guy, but the three boys were all Buckeyes. Obviously, Justin came from Michigan after a couple of years, and those guys have really done fantastic. And a large part of it is the Ohio State connection. Now, that's not the only thing. Obviously, they're tremendous workers, and they've got a great network. But, if those kids all went to Michigan and were down here, I don't think you'd see, the Bourne brothers dumpsters with the Ohio State striping and Zach flexing over Devin Garter like you see all over Columbus right now. So again, it pays to go to Ohio State. If you use it correctly, it's a fantastic deal. Like, again, I owe a lot of my life to Ohio State. This site, obviously, because of Ohio State and because of everything I learned in terms of football from Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. So it's a special thing. But yeah, this kid's a special talent. And again, I love high 4-star corners, 5-star corners, because I don't think you can get enough of these guys. Nevada, what do you like about this kid? I mean, he's a long athlete. He's a kid that we really we're excited about. But what stands out on tape as we watch his highlights?
Well, again, I like, with quarterback, a lot of people are looking at different things. A lot of people are looking at how they cover different things. I'm looking at different things. I'm looking at how do they tackle, how do they engage blockers? Do they play special teams? Do they play offense? How much do they like delivering the blow? Because I like physical corners, because I just assume that at this level that all these guys are fast and that all these guys can cover and all these guys can run. You're not going to be, there's no way you can be a corner and be slow. But, can you be physical? Can you do the types of things that Ohio State needs to do to have their defense roll? And I think this kid does it all. And, back to one of your earlier points about, why do we like this kid to Ohio State, or, what type of things, what type of ties does he have that way? Well, when you ask him what his favorite players are, he'll say Denzel Ward, Jeff Okudah. And you're like, you hear that and you're like, oh, that sounds like a Buckeye to me. You know what I'm saying? He's not talking about Charles Woodson, or who would be the other great Michigan corner anyway. That's a great trivia question. Who would that be? Number 28, the guy that got torched for like 900 yards.
Morgan Trent.
Yeah, we were there. I mean, come on,
this is something I just noticed on this kid. So you talk about Denzel and Okudah. He's wearing a Goosebumps hat, and R.L. Stein, who writes Goosebumps, is an Ohio State Buckeye. So of all the famous people that have come out of Ohio State, I grew up reading Goosebumps books. So that's a tell. I don't know if anyone else has pointed that out, but that's why we're the scoop. So there you go. There you go, Nevada. You get your two corners and you have R.L. Stein. So, but yeah, I'm just saying.
I think, I mean, down at he's from Springfield, from the Dayton area.
Yep.
I mean, come on, that's Buckeye country right now. It's like this kid's not going to go to Michigan. There's just no way. And you mentioned the Bournes. I remember when Justin, I think, changed and was transferring to Ohio State from Michigan. There was some story about one of the younger Bourne brothers that was crying and ripping up the posters off his walls and stuff like that. He was such a Michigan fan because Dad went to Michigan. And then they both ended up going to Ohio State and making a legacy there. So I think any thoughts that an Ohio kid has of being a Michigan Wolverine has got to be driven by one of two things. One, that he just didn't get that Ohio State offer, and we
Mhm.
wish him well and goes to second choice. Or two, he's just one of those kids that wants to go against the grain and do one of those crazy things. And Scott doesn't strike me as being either one of those. He's certainly not in the first category, and he doesn't strike me as being in the second category. So I think he's a Buckeye, and I think we pair him with West, and we have a great couple of 5-star cornerbacks out of the state of Ohio. And that's a good get.
Yeah, and I love the Bourne family, and I coached Justin, I coached Jacoby, the two O linemen. Zach obviously was a fullback, switched to linebacker his last year in the middle of the season, get ready for Indiana. But Justin flat out told me, I was like, dude, why did you go to Michigan to start when you're from Pickerington? You know, his dad's a legacy. And you got to remember, like, his dad played for Bo Schembechler, who obviously was still alive at the time when Justin was getting recruited. And Bo told his dad, your son has to come to Michigan. Has to. So Mike, it's like, you know, if you go to Michigan, I'm gonna buy you a brand new F-250, like, you know, $90,000 truck, whatever it is. And so Justin's like, all right, going to Michigan. I mean, you're an 18-year-old. You get a sweet truck and you get to go to your dad's alma mater. And back then, Michigan was good. So it wasn't like you're going to Rich Rod, Michigan. Lloyd Carr was still in place. And, you know, Justin played in that '06 1 versus 2 game. So, you know, it looked for a while like he made the right choice. But then '07 came, Lloyd retired, Rich Rod showed up, you know, and Justin got out of Dodge about as fast as possible. So, you know, I think that kids make mistakes, and that's the nice part about the transfer portal is that, you know, if you're a kid like, you know, Davidson Igbinosi, who dreamed of being an Ohio State Buckeye but didn't get offered by Ohio State, you can go ball out somewhere for a year, and then, you know, if you're a freshman All-American and all of a sudden you hit the portal, you can go to Ohio State. You can kind of correct the oversight that was there, and Justin, you know, Justin was kind of like the first portal kid, even though he had to sit out here and play scout team. But that was back when it was hard to transfer. But you know, it worked out great. Like I said, the family does fantastic. Like I said, Mike Boren is always just been fantastic. It was funny that the mom, who's great, you know, I used to joke with her. I was like, you know, Jacoby's really good. Like Jacoby's a really smart player, and she's like, well, he's not ever going to play her. And like, I was like, no, I think he's a good player. Jacoby was the smartest kid I ever coached. Like that guy, he got the playbook in about one day, and he was like a robot. I mean, he was like an AI center that could just learn stuff faster than anybody, regurgitate it faster than anybody. And it turns out he's a starting center on a national championship team. And, you know, really, like, it's a team that should have won 2 championships because that 15 team was better than the 14 team. They just, you know, stunk it up in one game against Michigan State. So, but yeah, I think this kid's going to be a Buckeye. Again, I don't see the reason why you'd go to Michigan. I get entertaining it right now, but you know, when you're a corner, it's, you know, it's not like being a quarterback where, you know, if there's one in the class and there's only one guy that gets to play, it's different than when you're a corner and you could take 2-3 corners and they could all play. You know, they could play nickel, they can move to safety. There's a lot more opportunity to play at corner. But I love this kid's film. Like I said, he's an explosive athlete. He's a kid that, you know, I know it's going to be a fist fight for a swim, but you know, our guys got some juju going in you know, in the recruiting backfield right now with Tim Moulton and Perry Eliano. So, I mean, hey, these guys have been on a heater right now, so I'm not betting against them. And if I'm Michigan, I wouldn't be penciling in this kid's commitment by any stretch. But yeah, like in Nevada, you know, with the way we've been rolling in the portal, how do you think, or do you think that carries over to recruiting these high school kids? Because like I feel like, you know, when you get this ball of momentum rolling, it just expands and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I feel like we've got a lot of recruiting momentum in the portal right now.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about it. But you know, really to kind of at a more basic level, when you're recruiting great wide receivers like Ohio State is, and like truly, truly, truly elite guys, for cornerbacks, that's who you want to be going up against in practice. That's how you get to the league. That's how you do it. And so it's kind of one of those things that, you know, it's you know, getting great wide receivers is fantastic. But what it helps you do is it helps you get great quarterbacks. It also helps you get great defensive backs because those are the guys that they're going up against in practice. And that's how you get a kid like Davison. who's like, man, I get to go up against, Marvin Harrison and Emeka and Julian Fleming and Brandon Innes and Carnell Tate every day in practice. That's just going to just make me even better. And then I see the guys that they're bringing in. So no, I think activity begets activity. Players like to be around players, and it's that way in anything. Whether you're forming super teams in the NBA or whatever it is, players want to be around other great players, and Ohio State's momentum is palpable both on the field and off the field, and continuing onto the recruiting front, which is I'm not saying it's never been better than this, but this is pretty. We're on a really great run right now, and Ryan Day's managed to keep the recruiting train on the rails, and kudos to him.
Yeah, I think again, I think our NIL stuff is starting to get figured out between the foundation, cohesion, the 18th. I mean, in a dream scenario, we'd eventually just have one, but right now we've got three, and we have two nonprofits, one for-profit. The O was the basketball one, and it merged with the foundation. But another guy who's got a lot of momentum right now in the Ohio State world is Peyton Woodyard. He's a guy. He's out of Bosco. Bosco's obviously as good a football as there is in the country. Home of Mateo, a lot of superstar players. But with our NIL stuff, I mean, it's really starting to sharpen the sword, and there's a lot of buzz that he could flip from Georgia, which that'd be fantastic. I mean, he's a 6'2", 198-pound safety. He's a four-star kid. Take him in a heartbeat, because when you play three safeties or you play, two safeties in a corner, whatever, I mean, you need more and more of these guys. But Nevada, how big of a flip would it be to switch Peyton Woodyard from Georgia to Ohio State?
I mean, it'd be big, but you're right. We've been doing this long enough that we know kind of the signs. When you start to hear the names, you start to hear things starting to kind of percolate, and that's what that started a few weeks ago, and then lately it's becoming more and more pronounced. You're starting to see it a little bit more. The NIL people are talking about the packages they're putting together for it, so it's starting. I think it's got serious legs. The first time I heard it, you're kind of skeptical hippo a little bit, but at this point, it's definitely it's not on red alert, but it's flashing yellow, and it's definitely one that could move to the good guys here pretty soon, because I think Ohio State's doing a heck of a job recruiting him, and I think the type of defense that we're playing right now really fits a guy with his skill set. Now George isn't exactly chopped liver either, but I think he likes what Knowles is saying about what they're going to do with the defense. And look, people have been, really, I think I'd say maybe mixed, but probably not mixed. It's probably 60, 70% that people aren't happy with the way the defense moved last year. I'm really happy with the way it is. And I think the continued maturation of the defense, the continued evolution of the defense, the continued play of the defense is just going to continue to attract good to great players like this, and help get guys to the field. But I think it's going to be a great year for OSU defense in 2023. Everything that I'm hearing is pointing up. I think that we've been able to kind of fill the holes that we had. Return veteran, experienced, good players. And people have to remember, we had 4 or 5 starters last year that left Ohio State, went to the NFL draft, and didn't get a sniff. And that just doesn't happen. And when that happens, that's a real head scratcher about the talent level that we have. Getting guys like this make a difference. Getting the guys that we have returning makes a difference. I really think the OSU defense is poised for a big 2023, both in recruiting and on the field.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, it's hard for me to ever be critical of Larry Johnson, because of all the coaches I've ever been around, he's probably the guy I respect the most, just because I played against his defensive lines. I coached against him when I was a GA. I know how good his players are, how hard they play, how good they are technically. But if I had to be critical of him, I'd say he played the wrong guys last year. And I think part of it is when you give guys a reason not to play you, like if Tyleek doesn't want to work hard, doesn't want to go hard, wants to have no motor and be lazy or play out of his gaps, then that gives Larry a reason to play older guys that aren't as talented as you. And Mike Hall was dinged up with his shoulder. I still think he should have gotten more snaps. I think that obviously the Jack Sawyer thing with the Jack was a bust, and him going back to DN I think is going to prove to be really beneficial for our defense. But it's go time for a lot of these guys now. There's no more older guys that are soaking up snaps. Now these young guys that want to go get paid, they want to have a career after Ohio State. It's time for them to go. It's time for Tyleek to go. obviously, I'm gonna throw in some time alone stuff on here. We just got him. Huge get. Again, this is a guy that is correcting a mistake. He went to Ole Miss, wanted to play two sports, which again, I think it's stupid unless you're Bo Jackson or Dion to try to play two sports because I think it's hard enough to be good at one. I think it's too taxing on the body when you're doing it at an SEC level where you don't get a break, your body's exhausted, and then and you're always gonna have to sacrifice stuff. You're gonna have to sacrifice. I'll put some time alone on it. This is his high school film. But if you're playing baseball in the spring, then you have a game that day, you miss spring football practice. If you've got a road trip, you miss a Saturday scrimmage. Like, there's always kind of a give and take. And with Ole Miss, like with football, I'm sure football, since they were paying the bills, would come first. But, it's hard to manage your schedule when both sports are basically around now. So I think that he realized that he wasn't going anywhere in baseball. And, football with his size and his stature, this is a kid that Bama offered, Georgia offered, we offered. Again, I'm sure he got the bag at Ole Miss, and he's just corrected it wrong. But I love this kid's game. Like I said, I think he's got big time potential, and it's at a position of need. But it'll be interesting to see how this pushes Tyleek. Because Tyleek's the guy that's going to be in the same spot, and Tyleek, if he ever gets that motor running hot all the time, he'll be a fantastic player. But that's been his issue. Like, I mean, the talent is super evident when you watch him on tape, but how often does that talent want to show up and not be winded and not be tired and not be dogging it? So again, I think that when you bring in guys like this, like my favorite part about the portal, honestly, is, if you recruit, because you're always going to miss on guys. If you have 20 guys in the room, like an offensive line, there's always going to be a miss rate. And that's the same as the NFL draft, college football recruiting, whatever. Like there's always going to be misses. There's going to be misevaluations. There's going to be guys that don't work as hard, guys that are lazy. And now you can kind of replace those guys with guys like this who have the talent, have the upside. He hasn't produced at a college level, but you see the talent. You see why Georgia and Bama wanted this kid. So it'll be exciting to see how this pushes Tyleek and Ty Hamilton, Mike Hall, like the whole crew that's already there to be better. And even the freshmen, like guys like Hero Kadu want to play this year. Hero Kadu was probably the MVP of the spring game, had a great spring game, played great, real productive, sack, tackle for loss, 4 or 5 tackles as a D tackle is fantastic. But this guy's coming to take your spot. He's coming to take your reps, take your spot in the rotation, push you down in the rotation. So I love it because I'm a big fan of competition. I'm a big fan of pushing each other. And again, when I played, there were guys that frankly didn't earn their scholarship checks, and I wish that there was a way to get rid of them, get them off the team, and bring in better players. And now there's a way. And kudos to Ryan Day and Mark Piantoni, the roster management skills, because I think it makes guys a little bit less settled, a little bit less relaxed, keeps guys on edge when you're bringing in better players. And I'm a fan of it. Like I know people are like worried about the chemistry of the locker room, but this is how they do it in the NFL, and the locker room magically don't fall apart when teams sign big free agents or draft players. Like, you got to build a new team every single year. So any thoughts on that then, Nevada? That was kind of a long one, but I'd love your thoughts on that and the process of building a team.
Yeah, I really have to say I go both ways on it. I think I am worried about team dynamics. I am worried about culture, but I also recognize that that kind of that constant creative tension where you've got guys kind of on edge, and it's I'll harken it back to kind of the way that Urban Meyer coaches. They said that Jim Tressel wanted people to be comfortable, and Urban Meyer wanted people to be uncomfortable. And I think being active in the portal makes everybody uncomfortable. It makes everybody not complacent and looking over their shoulder to make sure that they're doing things the right way. And as you mentioned, it's the way that it is in big boy football. It's the way it is. It's the nature of the beast in the NFL. And for Ohio State, I think if you want to beat the best, you got to be like the best. And you ask yourself, what would Alabama do? Well, Alabama was absolutely ruthless, and somehow they still managed to recruit guys. They still managed to get multiple pieces of talent at same positions year in and year out, and they win just unbelievably frequently. So I think given all that, then I think we have to be more like Bama, and that involves being more active in the portal. And the good news is that Ryan Day clearly has embraced this, because we talked about it before the season how we were going to be more active in the portal. But it's one thing just to talk about it and say that, but they went out and got dudes, and they got dudes at positions of need and help fill spots, and did it in mass. So, like I said, hats off to them. This certainly seems to be the way that we're going, and it's certainly the way it's going to be in 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, and something that's interesting, like with Bama, is that they just got a quarterback out of the portal, a kid from Notre Dame. Last year they got Jahmyr Gibbs, who went 12th overall to the Lions. Year before they take JMO, who went 10th, I think, overall to the Lions. So they're getting their number one skill guys. And we're filling in like corners, and we're filling in backup defensive tackles. Bama is actually going out and getting guys that are like pushing down their 5-star running backs and pushing down their 5-star receivers and becoming their number one option. So that's, and again, you got to do what you got to do, because if you miss on your running backs, and you can go get Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a top 12 pick in the NFL draft, which, in this era where running backs are devalued and they're in rotations, like if you go top 12 at an NFL running back or as a running back in the NFL, you're a special player. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a freak of nature, Alvin Kamara type weapon. And he was for Nick Saban's offense last year. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And also, the thing about Alabama with all their 5-star, every single guy they signed on the O-line is a 5-star. Their starting left tackle came from Vanderbilt last year, and he was a 3-star. He was a nobody. Like, he ended up at Vandy, the worst team in the SEC. And guess what? He hit that portal, and he could have started for anyone in the country except for us last year, because we had Paris and Dewan. But he started at Bama, and I think like for the O-line, where you're taking guys that are converted from D-line or converted from tight end, or they're raw, or they're not yet mature, or whatever, like it's a huge edge to have the portal, because you're always going to find linemen that are under recruited, guys like Trevor Penning who go to Northern Iowa and then they end up being a top 20 pick at left tackle for the New Orleans Saints. Like, you're always going to have those guys out there. You just got to go try and get them and see if you can get them to come to your shop and work with you. But yeah, I love watching this kid's film. He's a beast. He's a dominator. But yeah, I like it. Oh, this is great. So we whiffed on this. Thank you, Jesse. So the second best corner at Michigan, Ty Law. So, but again, I don't know if he would know who Ty Law is, because he's in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, he was pretty good. Him and Chucky. So, yeah, I think Jason Moore is going to be fantastic. Just seeing some of these questions in here. 411 dudes, appreciate you. Go ahead.
Ty Law, did he play? He played when like Fielding Yost was like the coach at Michigan or something like that, right?
I think so. I think he played for, who did he play for, Bo? No, he played in like the 90s. I mean, he played after, he was before Woodson. So, I mean, he was in the league.
You're talking like 40 years ago or something like that, right?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Here's a funny one. Our boy Whitfong. He said that Georgia could flip JJ Smith if Hartline leaves. I don't think there's any chance that Hartline's going to leave, and I also don't think there's any chance that they flip. There's no chance they flip JJ Smith. But again, if Brad Hartline leaves, then all bets are off. But I mean, he'd have to leave by December, because JJ's about to be a senior, and he's going to sign in December and be an early enrollee. So if Brian, again, that's the thing. I've talked to Brian. I saw Brian tonight at a charity event I was at, and I just told him, I was like, dude, don't ever paint yourself in a corner and say you just want to be the wide receiver coach at Ohio State for the rest of your life, because that's bull crap. Because you want to be a head coach, you want to be the highest paid coach. Like, he's got big ambitions, and
was he drinking? What was he drinking tonight?
He was drinking water, lots of water.
He's
a keynote speaker. He did a nice job.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
now, if he went up there with what if he went up there with like a pina colada or something, or like
like a handle of Jack or something?
Exactly.
Come on, man.
I mean, come on. Too soon? Is it too soon to talk about this?
Leave Brian alone. Leave my boy alone. No, it was a nice event though. But no, like I said, like, he wants to be the next Lincoln Riley. He doesn't want to be, pigeonholed as a position coach, and that's why he's a coordinator now. And the next step, if you're the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, man, that's like the rocket ship to being a head coach. I worked for Tom Herman. Obviously, Luke Fickell is a defensive guy, but Tim Beck's the head coach right now. So you don't think Brian Hartline isn't better than Tim Beck? I mean, that's just kind of is what it is. But yeah, I think. Tyler One having 3 years of eligibility left is also huge, because after this year we could lose Mike Hall, This is a great question. Does it hurt OSU's chances that they've had one DB drafted in the last three drafts? I don't think so, just because, I don't just look at like what Ohio State's done. I look at what those coaches have done. And if I got Perry Eliano, who's, coaching the safeties, I mean, Sauce Gardner is going to be a $50 million a year corner when he comes up. He made the Pro Bowl last year, was all pro as a rookie. Obviously Kobe Bryant, the younger brother of Christian Bryant from Glenville won the Thorpe Award. Tim Walton's coached Jalen Ramsey, which we've talked about ad nauseum. Jalen Ramsey's highest paid corner of all time. I don't think so. I don't think the draft thing is something you count against. Like if I'm a recruit, I want to talk to the coaches. I want to know who they've coached. I want to know what they think of them. And Jalen Ramsey, there's a great clip where he speaks very highly of Tim Walton. And, Sauce Gardner loves Perry Eliano. So that's what matters to me. It's not, the guys that were here before they got here, or the guys that Kerry Combs coached or whatever. I think that those things are kind of irrelevant, especially since these two DB coaches are in year two. And I think that, Davidson could be a high first round pick. We've got some guys that could be better, but again, does it hurt that Ronnie Hickman left early and didn't get drafted? Maybe. I don't know. But I think that these guys are more concerned about what the future is and who these guys have coached. So, I told you Goosebumps was awesome, man. I used to love Goosebumps. When I was in fifth grade, man, I would have every Goosebumps book. So, R.L. Stein, shout out Ohio State. Love to have you on Scoop World Order. Yeah, I think Tylon is going to be really good. See what other questions you guys got on here. Shout you guys out. I know there's a lot of stuff. What's up?
You watched Goosebumps. I watched HR Puffin stuff, and I thought that was like a horror thing or something like that. Like that scared the heck out of me. That might as well have been The Exorcist when I was a little kid, man. That little the witchy poo and the guy with the talking thing and the Hamburglar guy and the flute that talked and stuff like that. I mean, that was. Was anybody else out there terrified by HR Puffin stuff?
Was that a show?
Yeah, HR Puffin
Really?
stuff, man. It was terrifying, man. It was a afternoon show, and it was. I think it was supposed to be like lighthearted and a kid show, but man, it scared the heck out of me.
Someone. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at some of these old Goosebumps books, man. I'm telling you, these things used to scare the crap out of me. And I remember the one time I kind of knew what was going on in the book, and I said it in my class. My teacher was reading the book, and like everyone gets some. Yeah, Carissa Kohlkamp. Like, and these are legendary books, man. These things were scary. They used to come out I think they came out like every month. There'd be a new one. So, I'm a big fan of the Goosebumps. But yeah, I love that R.L. Stein wrote that, and our boys rocking the R.L. Stein hat. All right. So the rumored, this is probably the giant Auburn kid. I haven't heard anything about this kid. I don't know why he'd come here when you've already got Devin Brown and McCord. This is the kid from Auburn. He's like 6'7". Maybe he could be a tight end, but I don't know. I think it's TJ Finley. He's a big kid, but I don't see how he fits unless he really wants to convert into being a tight end. But I wouldn't want to go where there's Cade Stover and Joe Royer. But this dude's a
and Jelani Thurman.
Well, Jelani Thurman is like terrifying. It's this kid right here.
Yeah.
You got the Bermuda shorts going pretty hard right there. I think these kids, and again, I'm going to be the old man here, but these guys are nuts that don't cover their knees up. Because I'm telling you, man, if I was an offensive lineman and I saw defensive ends wearing their pants like this, I would not be able to wait to cut block them and put my helmet right into their kneecaps. Every time I see that, I'm like, I would get off the bus cut blocking, and I'd put my helmet right in their knee, and they'd never want to play again. But these guys, they all wear this, and the old school NFL guys can't stand it, but they do what they do. So in terms of lagging behind his first year of it, have been great in recent. I mean, I think our DBs, they can get better. But I think that with the talent that we've infused at corner, especially some of these freshmen are really really good. And then add Davison. Denzel wants to go pro. He's got to be better, but I think we'll be fine. Like I really do. I think that. I think Lathan will take a step this year. I mean, if we play Sonny Styles, Sonny Styles might be the most, athletic guy we've had. He's a massive kid. He's huge, but, there's a lot of opportunity there for some of these young guys to go make an impact playing slot nickel. You know, if you're on because on rundowns, I would put Sonny down at nickel. So he's basically like a Sam linebacker walked over the slot receiver. Then on passing downs, I'd roll him back and have him be basically the strong safety. They call it the bandit, you know, because they got to have a cool name for it. They can't just call it strong safety because that's not cool. But yeah, I think I don't know, and I think this is a great question. I'm going to go with this one. Nevada, do you think we would have really beaten TCO if we got past Georgia in the semi? And I'm like, I know what I think, but what do you think?
I think we'd have beat them like a rented mule, man. I think we'd have beaten them by 50 points. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
have no
god.
doubt. Yeah, I have no doubt that we would have just annihilated those guys.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel. I mean, like with our talent, because that's the hardest part about last year is, you know, when you get a team like that, you've got the number one offensive lineman in the country in Paris, and you've got CJ, who is arguably the number one quarterback, you know, went 2 overall in the draft. Like, you got to cash those chips in, man. Like, there's not many times where you're playing poker and you get dealt a royal flush, and then somehow you figure out a way to lose, like you throw your cards back or something. Like, but that's kind of what we did last year, and you know, we lost to Michigan, we lost to Georgia, and like, you know, now we got to get Kyle McCord going. You still got the skill, rebuild the O-line a little bit, but man, when you have a team that's like that with PJ at left tackle and CJ Stroud and you know, I don't know. I just think it's hard because I've been around Ohio State football for 30 years now, and you just don't have teams like that very often. And this year could be a team like that because I mean, if Kyle McCord figures it out, and you know, we kind of protect the O line a little bit, and we use this incredible skill advantage we're going to have, we're going to be good. Like, and it's, again, we don't play Georgia week 1. We're playing Indiana and Youngstown State and Antarctica Tech, and you know, so until we play Notre Dame, we don't really play a real team, which is great. Then we play Notre Dame, who just lost their quarterback. They're kind of a dumpster fire right now, and I think that we're going to beat the brakes off them. Wisconsin doesn't have a quarterback, so they're going to stink on offense. They'll probably be tough on defense, like always. And then we're going to go to Ann Arbor. So I mean, it's going to be a war. Penn State's the one that's kind of the sneaky one because they come here, but they're loaded this year, and Drew Aller's he is a stud. So we better be ready for him.
Yeah, but think about where we were. I mean, I know people don't like going back to the spot, but try to take yourself back to where we were the day after the Michigan game. Okay, I
Yeah.
mean, I remember wading into the board because I was not going to run and hide from that. I just
Yeah.
waded right in there, and I'm
Oh
just like,
yeah.
hey, let's talk for realsies about where we are. And when we started looking at that game against Georgia, you know, when we were lucky enough to get into that game against Georgia, you and I were one of the few people that were like, look, we like this matchup a lot. We think Ohio State's the bet on this. We think Ohio State can play with these guys. And there was not many people saying that. And so, you know, for Ohio State right now, you know, as an Ohio State fan, I know I'm a fan. I know you're a fan. I know everybody that's listening is fans. Like, man, we are in the rare air. We are right there with a Georgia team that has just been cranking out draft picks at an ungodly rate on both sides of the ball, but especially on the defense. And I will go to my grave convinced that if they don't pick up the flag on the Marvin Harrison illegal hit, because it was an illegal hit, it's precisely the hits they're trying to legislate out of football, and somehow they pick up the flag on that. If they don't do that, every other place they say we win that game going away. So
I told
that's how
to,
close we were to winning a national championship. So let's remember that.
yeah, I totally agree. And yes, I was talking about Tyler Buchner. I was not talking about Skinner. That's in the chat right now. So apologize, guys, if that was confusing. But yeah, you know, Buchner and Tommy Reese taking off. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of upheaval there. Harry Heastand retired out of the blue, which is still kind of weird how that went down because it was like right after signing day or right before signing day. And my man Joe Rudolph is the O-line coach, but they've got a lot of upheaval on that offense, man. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, even Low Styles, you know, who put up decent numbers, he just came to Ohio State. So that was the guy they were probably counting on at receiver. They moved him to corner. But yeah, I don't think that we're the woulda, shoulda, coulda of college football because, you know, Bama just had the number 1 pick at quarterback and they didn't win it, you know, and they had Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the top 12 pick in the draft. And, you know, so that was kind of like their deal the last couple of years with Bryce Young. He didn't want to ship, at least not as a starter. But I don't know. Yeah, the six. This is a great point. Zone 6. it will be interesting to see how we deal with 6 road games, because I know that doesn't seem like a lot to a fan, but man, when you're a player, like, it was nice last year when we had the 8 home games and like 4 road games. That was like the dream schedule, because going on the road does suck. It's not harder to play on the road. I'm not trying to be a baby, but like when you have a road night game, you don't get home the next day until about 3 or 4 a.m. if it's a 7 or 8 o'clock kick, especially if it's one of the ones out west like Wisconsin or Iowa or Nebraska. And when you're Ohio State, you have to realize that you are the premier game on every team's schedule. You're the one that they jack the prices up. You're the ones that they have the big time donors in for to host. And so they always want that game at night so that they can mingle all day. And then the Buckeyes come out of the tunnel at 8 p.m. kickoff. And that's great. But when you're the player and you get done with the game and it's 11:30, then you hit the showers and you get on the bus and you go to the airport and you get on the plane and you get home. It's 4 a.m. So, your sleep is completely warped. Usually Ryan Day doesn't have the team practice that day, which means they have to practice on Monday, which sucks, because I'd rather practice on Sunday because it's usually a pretty light practice and just get it out and then have Monday off. But, like the six road games is something that's a little sneaky and people don't think about it, because if you haven't experienced it as a player or as a coach, like, you're just way behind. Like, that's why, again, I know that I'm the old fogey and Nevada always makes fun of me because I like noon games, but noon games are the best when you're a player, because you get up, you go play, game's over at 3:30, and you get to go have dinner with your family. Then you go out and kick with your homies, have a couple beers, and then get a nice night's sleep. But when you get that 8 o'clock game, man, it's like, God, you got to sit in the hotel all day, and we got to do 50 walkthroughs. That's the worst part about being a player or a coach. Like when I was with Urban, is we had a night game, we would just do like 10 walkthroughs. So it was like every hour we're doing another walkthrough. And I'm like, God, can I please go play football and not have to do another stupid walkthrough? I've already seen this once a million times. I've already seen this look a million times. Like, it's like you're just exhausted. You just want to go play. But there's my diatribe for the night. What's up?
Kirk, you need to adjust your microphone, because all I heard was you saying "wah" the whole time right there. It's like,
my
wah,
God. See, I knew that was coming. I just tried to be realistic with the people. I tried to be realistic, give them a little bit of a perspective, and I knew I was going to get dogged for it. I knew I was going to get called a soft little millennial or whatever you want to call me. And I probably earned that, and I'm fine with that. But I still like noon games. I don't care if you hate them. All of the players love them. All the coaches love them. Because when you're a coach, when you're these coaches, the only time you get off the entire week is after the football game until 7 a.m. on Sunday. So guess what? If your game is an 8 o'clock game and you get done at 11:30 and you got to be back in that office at 7, guess what? You have no time off. Your time off is spent in the hotel. But if you get done at 3:30 for a noon game, you get to go see your kids. You get to go grab some food. You get to watch the night games. It's fantastic. So again, I like noon games. Everybody hates noon games because the shoe is boring and it is quiet during noon games and everyone's asleep and whatever. But I don't care. I sit there, drink my hot chocolate, I eat my chicken tenders, and I have a blast. And if it's
but also there's no late night eating in Columbus either. Like the late night food scene in Columbus, Ohio, just
Waffle
sucks.
House. That's it. Waffle House.
That's terrible. That's
I know.
absolutely terrible. I mean, you would think for a town like Columbus, a college town, a place where you can't. I've been there so many times where it's like 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. You can't. There's nothing to eat. We have to do something about this, man. This should not stand. We should open a late night eating place in Columbus, Ohio.
Well, imagine being a player and you're starving to death. You get done with the game. They give you your ham sandwich, which is, it's like the size of your fist. So, I mean, you inhale that thing because you haven't eaten in 7 hours. And then, you go out to eat. Where can we go to eat? Steak and Shake, Waffle House. So it sucks. So then you're going to eat pure poison and then you're going to feel that the next day. So again, is that a win? Sure. Absolutely. Do I care? No. Because when I'm right, I'm right. It is what it is. So again, you guys said y'all can't cook. No, I can't cook. I'm tired. I'm dehydrated. I feel like crap. And honestly, all I want to do at the end of the games, all I wanted to do is go eat like a giant burger and then drink like a giant Crown and Diet Coke. That's all I wanted. And times like 8. That's all I wanted. And then when I can't do that, I got to go to Steak and Shake and eat like their terrible food. That's why none of them exist anymore in Columbus. Like, yeah, I can't cook. I stink. So, well, this was a good one. You got any final thoughts? Yeah, Buckeye Donuts is open. That's great. And I love Buckeye donuts, but man, like I need protein. Like I need like a giant burger or a steak. And
Well, plus you want to watch all those West Coast games that are going on. You know what I'm saying? Those late night
yes,
starts. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. Yeah.
You know, sit down, have like a nice steak, and watch the West Coast games, especially after Ohio State's won. So you watch all the highlights, and every time they're coming on, they're like, "Oh, Kyle McCord threw 5 touchdown passes a day," and you're like, "Oh man, I love watching the highlights." You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know why they don't have that. That seems absolutely insane to me. Or that McDonald's that's open, only the
All
drive
in
through or
tangent.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, I mean, that's just horrible. So yeah,
Yeah.
somebody get on that. Somebody get a project together. I'll be part. Nevadabuck will be part of it.
There you go. Fredo got banned, so thank you. You guys all wanted him banned, so he's done. I love this. All right, this is the comment of the day. Troy, you're bringing it right here. Fredo ended up at the bottom of like freezing. So Nevada, you probably can't see the chat. There's a guy named Fredo 2K. He wrote free Fredo 2K about 500 times in our chat, and everyone's calling for me to ban him, and I banned him. I was Michael Corleone.
Nice.
I put the bullet in his
Well
head. So it's
done.
fantastic. So, well, any final thoughts? Great show tonight, as always. Appreciate you guys tuning in, kicking it with us for a little bit. Any final thoughts, Nevada?
Nah, just gotta get Scott on board. Can't lose good in-state corners, man. Got to get that guy, and I think we will.
I totally agree with you. And thank you, NIL Collective. So, that being said, as always, thank you guys for being a part of this. You guys are awesome in the chat. Appreciate you, Daniel, Troy, Hamas Hero. All you guys are fantastic. As always, I got San Bernardino. I got, what's up, Paul? My boy Paul's in here. Appreciate all your regulars, Jesse, Dave. So appreciate you guys, man. You guys carry this show. It's fantastic. I love doing this. Kicking it with you guys is always a blast. You guys bring great stuff, and we appreciate that so much. As always, thank you guys. Again, you guys don't realize how fun it is to do these shows with you guys tuned in. So thank you. Shout out where you're from. Again, I love seeing San Bernardino. That is the home of the original McDonald's, I believe. So that's awesome. But keep shouting that out. Appreciate you guys. Leave us a like on your way out the door. Maybe write, who do you want to see step up week 1 against Indiana? Is it give me a dark horse. Give me a guy that no one talks about. Is it Joe Royer? Josh Fryer, like who needs to step up for this offense to really click? Give me a name, write that in the comments. So I love reading your stuff. As always, if you leave us that like, that is huge for us. Click subscribe. Send this to your family, your friends. Again, we really appreciate you guys spreading the word. Our show's been growing like crazy. It's all thanks to you guys. And if you enjoy these live shows, click that little alert bell. You will get the alert when we go live. Tonight was a little bit later. I went to a fantastic charity event tonight. It was a blast. So thank you guys for having me out there. Saw Brian Hartline. He was the keynote. He did great. Clay Hall did great. So he was emceeing the event. It was a fantastic night in Columbus. So appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. You guys are the best. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.